Take a deep breath, and let's hear a story about Violet, the teacher who learns life's wisdom from her kindergarten students. Violet Morgan stepped into her sunlit kindergarten classroom, breathing in the familiar scent of crayons and fresh paper that always filled the air. Her classroom at Meadowbrook Elementary was her sanctuary, a place where she had spent the last 15 years nurturing young minds and hearts. As she arranged the morning activity supplies, she could feel the gentle hum of anticipation that always preceded her students' arrival. The sound of tiny footsteps echoed in the hallway as her 5-year-old students began to trickle in, their faces bright with excitement and curiosity. Each child carried their own unique energy, some bouncing with enthusiasm, others moving with careful deliberation, all of them radiating the pure potential of childhood. Violet greeted each one by name, kneeling down to their level to make eye contact, her voice soft and warm as she welcomed them to another day of learning. She noticed little Emma clutching a jar with something inside, her eyes wide with the importance of her treasure. "Ms. Violet, look what I found in my garden," Emma explained, carefully placing the jar on the Circle Time rug. Violet felt that familiar tug at her heart, the one that reminded her why she had chosen this path in life, to witness these moments of pure discovery. The classroom felt like a living organism, breathing with the collective energy of 24 curious minds, warming the reading corner where plush pillows invited little bodies to curl up with picture books. The walls were adorned with artwork and photographs, each piece telling a story of discovery and growth. Violet had arranged the room in thoughtful centers: blocks, dramatic play, art, science, and writing, each designed to spark imagination and foster learning through play. After morning circle time, where they sang songs and shared the news, Violet introduced the day's theme: kindness and caring for others. The concept seemed simple enough for adults, but Violet knew that for children, these fundamental values were still being formed, shaped by the examples they witnessed and the experiences they had. She never took for granted the privilege of being part of this foundation building. Lucas, a quiet boy who rarely spoke up, raised his hand hesitantly. "My grandma says that when you're kind, it makes your heart grow bigger," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. The other children nodded in agreement, some placing their hands over their hearts as if to check if it was true. Stories poured forth, helping a friend who fell on the playground, sharing a cookie with a sibling, letting someone else go first on the slide. Violet listened intently, acknowledging each contribution with genuine interest. Zoe, with her curly hair bouncing as she spoke, described how she had helped her mom care for a baby bird that had fallen from its nest. Her eyes shone with pride as she explained how carefully they had placed it in a box with a soft blanket. The other children listened, rapt with attention, asking questions about what the bird ate and if it would fly again. As the morning progressed, Violet guided the children through activities designed to reinforce the day's theme. At the art table, they created kindness cards for people they cared about, their small fingers carefully controlling crayons and safety scissors. The concentration on their faces was intense, tongues peeking out of the corners of mouths as they worked. Violet moved among them, offering gentle guidance and encouragement, her presence a steady anchor in their busy explorations. Recording their observations in picture journals, they noticed how its wing was slowly healing, how it drank sugar water from a small cap. Violet introduced vocabulary words like metamorphosis and chrysalis, watching as the children tested these new words on their tongues. She marveled at their capacity to absorb knowledge, their brains making connections at an astonishing rate. During snack time, the children sat in small groups, sharing fruit and crackers. Violet noticed how Mateo, who usually kept to himself, offered his apple slices to Lily when she dropped hers on the floor. The gesture was small but significant, requiring Mateo to overcome his shyness. Violet caught his eye and gave him a warm smile of acknowledgement, watching as his face lit up with pride. These moments of growth were what she lived for, the subtle shifts that signaled emotional development. Outside on the playground, the children's energy exploded in joyful movement. They ran, climbed, and swung, their bodies seeking the physical expression that balanced their mental work. Violet stood watch, her senses alert but her mind reflective. The crisp autumn air carried the scent of fallen leaves and the distant sound of older children playing soccer on the field beyond the fence. She breathed deeply, feeling a profound sense of gratitude for this life she had chosen. She approached him quietly, following his gaze to a small family of deer at the edge of the woods that bordered the school property. They stood together in silence, sharing the magical moment as the deer grazed peacefully, unaware of their audience. Samuel's hand found hers, and she felt a complete trust in his small fingers. "They're like a family, just like us," he whispered, and Violet felt tears prick her eyes at the simple truth of his observation. The gentle melody of piano and strings floated through the room, creating a cocoon of calm after the morning's activities. She moved quietly among the resting children. Even in this moment of stillness, she was teaching them the value of rest and reflection. Emma's butterfly jar sat on a shelf near the window, catching the afternoon light. Violet noticed several children glancing at it, even as they were supposed to be resting. She made a mental note to use this natural interest as a teaching opportunity later, focusing the children's attention on concepts of care and healing. As quiet time ended and the children began to stir, Violet gathered them for a story. She chose a book about a caterpillar's journey to becoming a butterfly, the children sitting close around her chair, their bodies still warm and relaxed from rest. She read slowly, her voice rising and falling with the rhythm of the words, pausing to show illustrations and ask questions. The children's responses revealed their understanding and misconceptions, giving Violet insight into their thinking. After the story, a problem arose that would shape the afternoon's learning. Jaden approached Violet with worry in his eyes, pointing to the butterfly jar. "Miss Violet, I think the butterfly needs to go free," he said, his voice serious. The book said they need to fly and find flowers. Other children joined the conversation, some agreeing with Jaden, others expressing concern about the butterfly's damaged wing. Violet recognized this as one of those perfect teaching moments that couldn't be planned. "What do you think we should do?" A passionate debate ensued, with children offering arguments for both keeping the butterfly safe and setting it free. Violet listened carefully, asking questions that helped the children think critically about their positions. She watched as they practiced the art of disagreeing respectfully, of listening to different viewpoints. These were skills that many adults struggle with, yet here they were, 5-year-olds navigating complex ethical territory. The discussion revealed deep empathy among the children. "If I had a hurt wing, I'd want to be where my family is," said Lily, her eyes serious. "But what if it can't fly yet?" countered Mateo, his usual shyness forgotten in his concern for the butterfly. Violet observed how the children were instinctively balancing competing values: freedom versus safety, natural habitat versus protection. She felt a swell of pride in their thoughtfulness, their ability to consider perspectives beyond their own immediate desires. As the debate continued, Violet noticed that the children were becoming more nuanced in their thinking. "Maybe we could make a special garden for the butterfly here," suggested Zoe, her face lighting up with the idea. "Or we could keep it until its wing is better and then let it go," added Lucas. Violet recognized that they were developing critical thinking skills that would serve them throughout their lives. Eventually, the children decided they needed more information before making a decision. With Violet's guidance, they formulated questions and formed research teams. Some gathered books from the classroom library, others worked with Violet to look up information on the classroom tablet. The room hummed with purposeful activity as children sketched, wrote, and discussed their findings. Violet moved among them, scaffolding their learning with targeted questions and gentle redirection when needed. What had begun as a simple ethical dilemma had blossomed into a rich interdisciplinary learning experience. Literacy skills, ethical reasoning, and collaborative problem-solving all at once. Violet marveled at how naturally these connections formed when learning was driven by authentic curiosity and purpose. She thought of the rigid curriculum guides. By mid-afternoon, the research teams were ready to share their findings. They gathered again in a circle, each group presenting what they had learned about butterflies, their habitats, and their needs. Violet was impressed by how seriously they took this responsibility, how carefully they had considered the evidence. She watched as they listened to each other with respect, building on each other's ideas rather than competing. These were the social skills that would help them become thoughtful, engaged citizens of the world. The presentation of findings led to new questions and insights. The children learned that butterflies need specific plants for food, that they navigate by the sun, and that they can fly with slightly damaged wings. They discovered that monarch butterflies migrate thousands of miles to Mexico, a fact that left them wide-eyed with amazement, helping the children connect this small creature to the larger world. As the afternoon light began to soften, casting long shadows across the classroom floor, the children reached a consensus. They would create a butterfly garden in the protected courtyard of the school, plant flowers that butterflies need for food, and release their monarch there when it seemed strong enough. Violet suggested they document the butterfly's journey and share it with other classes, an idea that was met with enthusiastic agreement. She felt a deep sense of satisfaction in how the children had worked through this complex problem. The decision made, the children moved into action with purpose. Some began designing the butterfly garden. Others wrote letters to the principal requesting permission to use the courtyard. Violet observed their focused energy, their collaborative spirit, and felt a profound lesson settling in her own heart. These children, with their open minds and compassionate hearts, were showing her the power of community, problem solving, of finding solutions that honored both individual needs and collective wisdom. As they worked, Violet noticed the quality of light in the room changing, the afternoon sun casting a golden glow that seemed to highlight the children's absorbed faces. In these moments, she felt less like a teacher and more like a witness to something extraordinary, the natural unfolding of human potential. The next morning, Violet arrived early to prepare for the day ahead. She was eager to see how the butterfly project would evolve, how the children would build on yesterday's momentum. As she arranged materials and reviewed her loose plan for the day, she felt a sense of peaceful anticipation. The classroom was quiet in these early moments, the children's energy lingering in the carefully arranged spaces they had created together. Sunlight streamed through the windows, illuminating dancing dust motes and warming the reading corner. When the children arrived, they immediately gravitated to the butterfly jar, checking on their small charge with the seriousness of dedicated scientists. Violet watched as they recorded observations in their journals, noting the butterfly's movements and behaviors with surprising accuracy. She marveled at their capacity for detailed attention, their natural inclination toward wonder and care. These were the seeds of scientific thinking, of environmental stewardship, growing naturally in the fertile ground of their curiosity. The morning's highlight was a visit from Mr. Chun, the school's groundskeeper, who had responded to the children's courtyard request with enthusiasm. He listened gravely as they explained their butterfly garden plans, offering suggestions and answering questions about soil and sunlight. Violet watched as the children engaged with him as a respected expert, asking thoughtful questions and considering his advice. She noted how confidently they expressed their ideas to an unfamiliar adult, a skill that had developed through their collaborative work. After Mr. Chun's visit, the children worked in small groups to refine their garden design. Violet moved among them, observing their negotiations and problem-solving strategies. She noticed how they naturally incorporated concepts from their math and science lessons, measuring spaces, considering plant growth patterns, and discussing seasonal changes. The Butterfly Project had become a framework for integrating knowledge across disciplines, making abstract concepts concrete and meaningful. Violet made notes for her teaching journal, capturing these moments of authentic learning. By lunchtime, excitement was building as the release day approached. The butterfly's wing had continued to heal, and its movements in the jar had become more vigorous. The feel of dirt between their fingers, the earthy smell rising from the ground, the sound of birds calling overhead, all created a sensory experience that grounded their learning in the physical world. Violet watched as they worked with natural cooperation, bodies moving in harmony with a shared purpose. Back in the classroom, Violet guided a reflection circle, asking the children what they had learned through the butterfly project. Their responses touched on science facts, certainly, but went deeper into emotional and ethical territory. And that we can make a difference even for something small, added Jaden. They gathered in the courtyard, forming a circle around the newly prepared garden space. The air was filled with a mixture of excitement and solemnity as Violet carefully opened the jar. Time seemed to slow as the butterfly hesitated, then slowly climbed to the jar's edge. The children held their breath, their faces reflecting a complex mixture of emotions. A collective sigh moved through the circle. Some children clapped softly, others simply watched in wonder as their small friend disappeared into the wider world. Violet felt her own heart expanding with the moment, with the perfect symbolism of this release, of energy, of potential, when perhaps the greatest learning came from allowing flight. Back in the classroom, the children created a butterfly journal to document their experience. They dictated their thoughts to Violet, who wrote them down verbatim, honoring the authenticity of their voices. "The butterfly taught us about being brave," said Samuel, his usually quiet voice firm with conviction, aware that she was witnessing something precious, the formation of values that would shape their lives. As the day wound to a close, Violet gathered the children for a final reflection. She asked them to close their eyes and imagine their butterfly friend flying free, finding flowers and perhaps joining other monarchs on their journey south. The classroom grew quiet as 24 young minds engaged in this act of imagination, of empathetic projection. Violet closed her own eyes, feeling the gentle rhythm of her breathing synchronize with the collective calm in the room. In this moment of shared stillness, she felt profoundly connected to these children and to the natural wisdom they carried so effortlessly within them. The next few days saw the butterfly project evolving in unexpected ways. The children continued to visit the courtyard garden, planting milkweed seeds and flowers known to attract butterflies. They created informational posters to share with other classes, becoming passionate advocates for butterfly conservation. Violet observed how their sense of stewardship extended beyond the single monarch they had released, growing to encompass a wider understanding of ecological responsibility. She adjusted her curriculum to support this expanding awareness, bringing in books and activities that deepened their connection to the natural world. One morning, Lucas arrived with exciting news. He had spotted a monarch butterfly in his backyard garden. "Maybe it's our butterfly," he exclaimed, his eyes wide with possibility. The other children gathered around, asking eager questions about what the butterfly was doing, whether its wings showed signs of damage. She connected it to the butterfly's metamorphosis from caterpillar to chrysalis to winged beauty, reading certain words, climbing to the top of the playground structure. Violet witnessed the pride in their faces as they recognized their own transformations, their developing sense of themselves as capable, evolving beings. As weeks passed, the butterfly garden became a regular observation site. The children kept detailed records of the insects and birds they observed, visiting the flowers they had planted. Matteo, who had begun the year so shy he barely spoke, had become the group's most dedicated data collector, creating elaborate tally marks and pictures to document each visitor. Violet marveled at how his passion had overcome his reticence, how the right project at the right time had helped him find his voice and confidence. One afternoon, as the children worked at various centers, Violet overheard a conversation between Lily and Samuel at the writing table. They were creating a story about a butterfly school where butterfly teachers helped butterfly children learn to fly. "The teacher butterflies don't fly for them," Lily explained seriously. "They just show them how, and then they have to try themselves." Samuel nodded in agreement, adding, "And sometimes they fall, but the teachers help them try again." Violet smiled, recognizing the profound understanding of education embedded in their innocent play. At the parent-teacher conferences that month, Violet shared stories of the Butterfly Project and how it had transformed her classroom community. The parents listened with interest, many reporting that their children had brought the butterfly enthusiasm home, requesting garden changes and pointing out insects on family walks. One mother tearfully shared how her previously fearful daughter now gently rescued insects from the house, instead of asking for them to be killed. Violet felt the ripple effect of the classroom experience expanding outward, touching families and homes in meaningful ways. On a crisp autumn day, when the leaves had turned golden and the air carried the first hint of winter, Zoe arrived at school clutching a newspaper clipping. "Miss Violet, look," she exclaimed, carefully unfolding the paper. It was an article about monarch butterfly migration, with a map showing their journey to Mexico. The children gathered around, their fingers tracing the dotted line that represented thousands of miles of butterfly travel. Violet watched their faces register amazement at the scope of this journey, at the resilience of these delicate creatures they had come to love and respect. That afternoon, Violet introduced the idea of a butterfly festival to celebrate what they had learned. The children embraced the concept with enthusiasm, suggesting activities, decorations, and ways to involve the whole school. As they collaborated on planning, Violet observed how naturally they incorporated everyone's ideas, how they had developed the ability to build on each other's suggestions rather than competing for attention. She reflected on how far they had come since the beginning of the year, how they had grown not just in knowledge but in their capacity for cooperative thinking and mutual support. The Butterfly Festival became a school-wide event, with Violet's class taking the lead in teaching other students about monarch conservation. The children set up stations in the courtyard garden, confidently explaining butterfly life cycles, migration patterns, and habitat needs to visitors of all ages. Violet stood back, allowing them to take ownership of their knowledge, stepping in only when needed. She felt a deep sense of pride watching these young teachers share their passion and expertise, witnessing how their confidence blossomed in the act of teaching others what they had learned. As winter approached and the garden went dormant, the Butterfly Project naturally evolved into new areas of inquiry. The children's interest shifted to other creatures preparing for winter, to the changing patterns of weather and light. Violet followed their lead, providing resources and experiences that supported these expanding interests. Yet the butterfly remained a powerful symbol in the classroom culture, appearing in artwork, stories, and spontaneous play. It had become a shared metaphor for transformation, resilience, and the delicate balance of protection and freedom. At the winter holiday concert, the children performed a song they had composed about their butterfly experience. Standing on risers in the school auditorium, their voices joined in sweet harmony as they sang about wings and flight, about caring and letting go. Violet watched from the side of the stage, her heart full as she observed parents wiping away tears, recognizing the depth of feeling in this simple children's performance. The butterfly had touched something universal, something that resonated beyond science facts into the realm of human emotion and connection. On the last day before winter break, during quiet reading time, Violet found herself sitting next to Emma, the child who had first brought in the injured butterfly. Emma was looking through a book about insects, her finger carefully tracing the image of a monarch on the page. Ms. Violet, she whispered, her eyes serious. I think I want to be a scientist who helps butterflies when I grow up. Violet smiled, nodding in acknowledgement of this dream. The butterflies would be lucky to have someone who cares for them as you do, she responded softly. Emma returned to her book, satisfied, while Violet sat beside her in peaceful contemplation. As the children prepared to leave for their holiday break, gathering coats and handmade gifts for their families, Violet reflected on the journey they had taken together. What had begun with one butterfly in a jar had unfolded into months of rich, integrated learning, science, language, ethics, community building, and emotional growth, all intertwined in the organic way that the best early childhood education should be. She had entered teaching to make a difference in children's lives, yet each year they transformed her as well, their natural wisdom and openness continually refreshing her perspective on what truly mattered in education and in life.